guys, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'll be sharing 3 new budget-friendly spring decor DIYs using materials from the Dollar Tree. I love all 3 of these projects so much, and I really hope that you guys enjoy today's video. If you do, be sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Let's go ahead and jump right into today's projects. The first DIY I'll be sharing is a Colander Succulent planner, and for this project I used a mini colander. This one I got from Dollar General, but they do have these also at Dollar Tree. Mini faux succulents from Dollar Tree and also Amazon. Waverly chalk paint in plaster and also in the color steel. Paintbrushes, floral foam, scissors, nautical rope from Dollar Tree, rocks from Dollar Tree, Spanish moss, reindeer moss, and also my hot glue gun. For this project, I started by painting my colander with my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster. I did have to do 3 different coats of paint to get all of this teal color covered up. I do really like the teal color, but I wanted to have a little bit more of a neutral color to go with the decor that I currently have in my home. And to get in all of the little holes that are in the colander, I just dabbed my paintbrush right over them to get the paint down in there. Once that paint was dry, I then took my Dollar Tree stencil brush and my Waverly chalk paint in the color steel, and I dry brushed that on top of the entire colander to give it more of a rustic look. Now that I have my colander all painted, I'm then placing a piece of floral foam inside of my colander to give me a little bit of height so I don't have to use as much reindeer and Spanish moss when filling it up. I then took the reindeer and Spanish moss and just kind of mixed them together before placing them inside of the colander, and I placed it around the floral foam and over top as well. Next, I'm adding some succulents that I picked up from Dollar Tree and also from Amazon right inside of that Spanish and reindeer moss. The ones I picked up from Amazon do have stems on them, so I just placed those stems right inside of that floral foam. And the ones that I got from Amazon also have a coating on them. They're great quality, but when I first received them, I took each one out of their packaging and threw them in with my crafting supplies, and they got thrown around a lot, so some of the coating did come off of these. Next, I'm adding some of these rocks that I also picked up from Dollar Tree. I'm placing them around all of the succulents and just sticking them down in between all of the Spanish moss. I thought they would add a really cute touch to my succulent planner. Now I'm making my hanger for my planner. I'm using a piece of nautical rope and I'm tying a knot around one of the handles. I then measured how long I wanted my hanger to be before I tied a knot around the other handle on the colander. Once I had everything all measured out and all of my knots tied, I cut the excess nautical rope off. I did have a little bit of trouble cutting the rope because I couldn't find my sharp scissors, and I ended up using some really dull kitchen scissors. So if you're going to be cutting nautical rope, be sure that you have some nice sharp scissors. It'll save you so much time. Here is my Colander Succulent planner all finished. This project was so easy and affordable to make, and it is perfect for spring and summer decor. Now moving on into DIY number 2, I'm making a moss stone wreath. For this project, I used an 8-inch wire wreath form, moss stones, reindeer moss, and then I also used Spanish moss, wood stems, Waverly chalk paint in plaster, paintbrushes, jute, a mini bird's nest that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. It is not from Dollar Tree, scissors, and my hot glue gun. For this project, I'm using the back side of this wire wreath form, so I just flipped it over, and then I started by putting these moss stones around the entire wreath form, and I didn't want the stones to go all in the same direction, so I'm placing them going in all different directions. Once I had my stones placed exactly where I want them to be, then I started by hot gluing them down. I placed hot glue right on the back side of each stone and then just pressed it right back down. I was sure to keep all of the stones in place where I had already placed them around my wreath form because I wanted them to sit exactly in those spots. Next, I'm adding some Spanish moss around all of the outside edges of the moss stones. And to do that, I'm placing hot glue around the outer edge and in between the moss stones, and then just pressing that Spanish moss onto the hot glue. I continued that step going around all of the outside edges of the moss stones, and then I also did that around all of the inside edges of the moss stones as well, until I had the Spanish moss going around my entire wreath. My Spanish moss was looking extremely messy, so I used some scissors to give it a little bit of a trim, and I did this around my entire wreath so that it would look a little bit more put together. Next, I'm attaching some of these wood stems to the bottom portion of my wreath. I'm putting hot glue right on the back side of the stem and then pressing it down onto my wreath. I did place them going in a few different directions. Once I had them all placed and glued exactly where I wanted them to be, I then attached this mini bird's nest that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. This is probably the only item I'm using that's not from Dollar Tree. And I placed hot glue on the back of that and then just pressed it over top of the wood stems. I'm cutting some small pieces of this raffia to give my bird's nest a little bit more of a realistic look. I put some hot glue in between all of the wood stems and all around the bird's nest, and then just put that raffia right over top of the glue to attach it. I also added some reindeer moss over top of that raffia right underneath all of the wood stems as well. For inside of my bird's nest, I added some Spanish moss using some hot glue once again, and then I added 2 of these mini eggs that I had in my craft stash, and I'm not exactly sure where these eggs came from. And then for the very last step, I'm adding 2 pieces of jute for my hanger. I just placed them right in between the wires along the back side of the wreath form, tied a knot for however long I want my hanger to be, and then just cut off the excess jute pieces. Here is my moss stone wreath all finished. This project was, again, super easy to do, and I think it looks so much more expensive than what it cost me to make it. And now for DIY number 3, I'll be doing potted flowers with a plant stand. For this one, I used a pack of the Tumbling Tower game blocks, a 5-inch terracotta pot, Waverly chalk paint in plaster, steel, and also in the color moss, paintbrushes, Spanish moss, reindeer moss, jute, floral foam, scissors, and also my hot glue gun. For this project, I started out by painting 14 of these Tumbling Tower game blocks from Dollar Tree with my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster, and I only had to do 1 coat of paint for each block. Next, I'm assembling the sides for my planter stand, and for each side I'm using 4 blocks. I'm placing hot glue on the sides of one of the blocks, and then I'm pressing 2 blocks on each side of that piece, and it's going to be towards the top. And then for the bottom piece, I'm doing the same thing. I'm putting hot glue on each end of the block, and then I'm pressing that in between the 2 other blocks at the bottom portion. I did continue that same step for 4 different sides. Once I had 4 of them made, I'm now going to be assembling my planter box, and for that I just put hot glue on the side of one of the pieces and then pressed it against another piece, and I continued that same step until I had all 4 sides completely all glued together. Now I'm making the bottom for my planter box, and I'm using large popsicle sticks for this, and I was measuring how long I need each popsicle stick to be to cover the bottom, and it ended up being just right in half. So I cut each popsicle stick in half, and I ended up needing 2.5 of them total to cover the entire bottom. And to cut the popsicle sticks, I just used some scissors. After I've got them all cut, I'm attaching them to the bottom of my planter. I'm using hot glue on the top and bottom portion of the popsicle stick and then placing it down onto my planter box. Once those are all glued down, I painted them with that Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster to match the rest of my planter box. Now that I have my box all made, I'm moving on to my pot. For this, I'm using a 5-inch terracotta pot from Dollar Tree, obviously, and I'm painting that with that Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster once again, and I painted the entire pot this color, the bottom, and then even about 1 inch down on the inside of the pot. And I was kind of messy when painting this. I didn't need it to be completely covered in the paint because I am going to be using a few other paint colors as well. Once the plaster color is all dry, I'm then taking my Waverly paint in the color steel on a piece of paper towel, and I'm dabbing that over top of the entire pot. And then I'm taking a clean piece of paper towel and rubbing it over top of the steel color to give it a really messy, distressed aged look. Once that color is on, I'm then taking my moss colored chalk paint on a piece of paper towel, and I'm dabbing that over top of the other colors on the entire pot. And once I have it all dabbed on, I'm then rubbing the extra paint that's on the paper towel all over the pot. Next, I'm cutting these stems down a little bit from these floral pieces that I picked up from Dollar Tree. I did end up using some of these little white flowers. I believe these were from Michael's a while ago, but I mixed some of these white flowers in with the ones from Dollar Tree just to add a little bit of more color. I'm also cutting down this piece of floral foam to fit inside of my pot. I'm then placing each one of these little stems inside of the floral foam to hold them into place. Once I have them arranged exactly how I want them, I'm placing some of the Spanish moss around all of the flower stems. Before I add my pot to my planter stand, I did have to add 2 of these little tumbling tower blocks on each side at the very top to hold my pot into place nice and snug. Here is my potted plant and stand all finished. You could use these separately, not together. You could take the pot out and use the stand for other types of flowers. I think this one turned out beautifully. I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you're not subscribed, I hope that you will consider subscribing, and please be sure to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos. As always, I would love to hear in the comments down below which DIY from today was your favorite. Thank you so much for watching.